Our IDs are transformative for publishers. Just in terms of understanding the pain that they're in, when Safari took away cookies, that was roughly in the United States across, PCs and also handsets on phones, is close to 40% of all ad inventory in the United States. Lost half its value when Safari took cookies away. What we're seeing right now from Chrome is that Chrome without cookies lose about a third of its value. So you compound those two things, it's like half of the value of the ad ecosystem will disappear with cookies unless something else happens. There's a big focus, a big talk on contextual, and I think that it does have legs, but it does not replace the revenue of addressability anytime soon. And the kinds of companies that can build really good contextual models are ones that have lots of behavioral data, aka Google. So the ones who have really good training data can really good contextual training models. So the net is there's a huge damage to publishers without addressability. And when publishers get users to log in, they re-enable addressable IDs, such as these alternative IDs, the money that's lost with cookies just directly comes back.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
Super excited to be chatting with Elliott Easterling today, who is the founder and CEO of Bonbon Technologies, which let him tell us the origin story, because it's a fascinating platform that he's built that sort of solves multiple people's problems at the same time.
Yeah, I've been, so just like I said, the origin story starts with the dot-com bust, which was my first experience with a data business that I worked at. But most recently, I was running a company called True Data, which I founded. And True Data is an identity graph company. What it does is it builds a relational database between consumers, people that is, and their digital devices, linking things like a hashed email to digital devices such as a mobile ad ID, or a home IP address, et cetera, et cetera. And that graph that business generates goes into the hands of some of the biggest advertising technology companies and data companies in the world, like the Trade Desk, Oracle, Experian, TransUnion, et cetera. So happily running that company. And in February 2 years ago, Google made an announcement they're getting rid of the Google Ad ID. And that was a cataclysmic event. And I had told my board that Google was going to do what Apple did, which is make the ad IDs opt in. And Google did something very different. They said, we're just going to get rid of these things. And we're going to replace them with who knows what on a timeline we're not sure of. And that level of uncertainty is so chaotic to the industry. For anybody who's trying to do any kind of planning, product planning, financial planning, it's really, really difficult. So I sort of like in a somber mood, I just asked my team, like, what if we didn't rely on Google and Apple IDs? What if we just were completely off of them? What would the business look like? And that's essentially what gave rise to this business Bonbon. And what we started ideating this, what we sort of came to realization is that it all came down to making consumers a relevant participant in the ad economy. Like if we could just finally like, hey, here's how it all works. Let's give consumers more transparency. That would be a big step forward. And to re-enable addressability, at that time we were seeing some really good early signs that alternative IDs like LiveRamp ID, like Ramp ID, UID2, ID5 were starting to take foothold. So we said that's probably the bet to make. The way that we can bet on those IDs and build consumer transparency, and what is the one thing that we could do to sort of like re-enable addressability? And we sort of came down to one thing: it's logins. If we get consumers to log in, we can generate these IDs. If we're transparent on what happens when consumers log in, I think that would be a huge boon for the industry. Make consumers participants. And then we said, well, consumers don't go to websites to log in, so there has to be a value exchange. And so that's basically what gave rise to our current business, is building a value exchange for consumers, giving them something, giving them rewards for logging in across the internet. And that was how we started the business.
Right. Well, that's a great origin story. And I know that recently you guys did an integration into OpenPass along with the Trade Desk, which of course is just one of many identity graphs that could potentially be used within the entire ecosystem, right, to tie honestly in a privacy self way a person's identity to, to an anonymized ad call, for example. And so I'd love to learn more about how that benefits the publisher, right? Because the publishers obviously are struggling, especially news publishers, because they not only have the standard issues of publishers, but they have brand safety issues and a bunch of other things. So, they're searching, they're grasping at straws of how to increase yield. And so I'd love to hear, what the value proposition is for the publisher.
Yeah, I mean, alternative IDs are transformative for publishers. Just in terms of understanding the pain that they're in, when Safari took away cookies, that was roughly in the United States across, PCs and also handsets on phones, is close to 40% of all inventory in the United States. Lost half its value when Safari took cookies away. What we're seeing right now from Chrome is that Chrome without cookies lose about a third of its value. So you compound those two things, it's like half of the value of the ad ecosystem will disappear with cookies unless something else happens. There's a big focus, a big talk on contextual, and I think that it does have legs, but it does not replace the revenue of addressability anytime soon. And the kinds of companies that can build really good contextual models are ones that have lots of behavioral data, AKA Google. So the ones who have really good training data can really good contextual training models. So the net is there's a huge damage to publishers without addressability. And when publishers get users to log in and they re-enable addressable IDs, such as these alternative IDs, the money that's lost with cookies just directly comes back, just is replaced directly. What we saw, across our network is when we have cookieless users. When we made addressable, we would take users that are making $1.05 CPM and generate $2.66 CPM with
Wow.
these alternative IDs. So, we're able to increase revenue 2.5 times just simply by working with existing industry standards and getting users, and getting publishers connected in with these alternative IDs.
One of the other factors that somehow doesn't get talked about as much, I think, with regards to addressable IDs, is the fact that the consumer doesn't want to see irrelevant advertising, right? And so relevancy matters to them too. It doesn't just matter to the advertiser, and it doesn't just matter to the publisher. Like, we really need to try to figure out how to delight everybody at the same time. So I'd love to hear sort of how the consumer ends up getting exposed to Bonbon messaging, right? And then what their experience is.
Yeah. So, everyone hates advertising, but people like their ads on Instagram. They're like, oh, on TikTok, those ads are just so relevant. They're kind of cool. Like, they're okay, right? If things are really relevant, they seem okay. So that's sort of an interesting nuance. So from our end, the consumer experience that we present is we give publishers a tag-based solution that gives them control, a lot of freedom on when and where to display our technology. And our display technology we display inline within a publisher can also be displayed as a pop on top of the content. And typically there's a couple things that we're doing for consumers. We are presenting them with a reward for logging in. And so it might be like you are on a site about the Green Bay Packers, and then you might see, something to pop up that says, hey, get a chance to win a Green Bay Packers jersey with your login. So we're able to leverage machine learning and contextual signals to tailor the rewards very much to just not the publisher site, to the section of a publisher, but sometimes even to the page of a publisher site. And so the consumer then is given an offer in exchange for registering. And as we move the consumer through the registration process, we sort of give them more and more rewards as they provide more information. We also give the publisher the ability to tailor some of those questions. And so a publisher can basically tailor questions that are interesting to them so that they can in turn make their site more relevant. One of our publishers is a sports site, and they want to ask the question of what's your favorite team? So they can then in turn make sure that the content is personalized on the site as the consumer visits again and again. So that's sort of like one area of rewards. We're also, have some pretty interesting engagement widgets that we're sort of providing where users can sort of come in and answer questions and poll, and they can sort of save their points by registering. And so we have a few different approaches. All at the end of the day is value to the consumers. Do you want to see yourself on a leaderboard? Do you want to take these points and apply them towards earning towards gifts and prizes? And for our perspective, we really just want to create a clean, consented, and fair value exchange with consumers.
as you learn more as a platform
Yes. Yeah.
about a
Yep.
specific individual, potentially on an anonymized level, but of course you
Yep.
grab their login information for the purposes of the publisher.
Yep.
Does that incremental information, which always, is cumulative, right? Does that accumulate to the benefit of only the publisher that was, active at that point in time, or does it accumulate to everyone's benefit the way a co-op does? So there were some direct mail co-ops back in the day where
Yep.
everybody would basically say, hey, I know that they like sports. Another one would say, oh, actually, I know that they like cooking. So let's try to figure out how to enrich the data in a way that it
Yep.
benefits all.
So there's two components of what we're building. First is a login co-op, which is once a user logs in, it becomes much easier to log in to the next site, the next site. And essentially, once those users log in to the publisher site, that login becomes first-party data of the publisher. We do give consumers control to delete their data across any publisher. And we also give the consumers options of signing up or not signing up for an email newsletter. So separating out authentication from email newsletter subscription is kind of a critical thing. Beyond that, we also help publishers understand how people are behaving within their website themselves. Philosophically, we think consumers own their data. So your consumer owns their cross-device behavioral data. And what we want to do is build a value exchange so the consumer can provide that data to the publishers to effectuate more relevant advertising, but also get something in exchange. So that's something that is part of our remit, but it's something that I think to do, you need to have a significant scale, and we're sort of like we're getting there. We'll probably be there later in the year, next year, but it'll take form of consumers having control, consumers essentially owning the data, and then getting rewards for participating in any kind of cooperative environment. The good thing is that we sort of think of ourselves as a supply side centric solution. There's a ton of demand side data plays, and those are all done without consumer participation for the most part. We think that in the world of cookies going away, we can create a new world order where publishers and consumers have more control, and publisher and consumer can capture more of the benefit of that data. And so by philosophically, by bringing it to the industry through the supply side, we're going to benefit publishers with higher ad rates and benefit consumers with more control and more rewards. And that's kind of our philosophy.
Right. I noticed that you give folks a choice of how to log in, what social sign on or sign on via, I think it's their OpenPass ID.
Yeah.
But one of the things, and maybe this is the reason you don't have more, right, is I often forget how I logged in, right, to somewhere because I've got more than half a dozen different email addresses, many of which are Google, some of which are not. And sometimes if I go to certain publishing website, and it logged me out, I'm like, well, I don't have any idea. Like I actually paying for this, and I still have no idea how to get in.
Yeah.
So have you kept it sort of narrowly focused with regards to sort of social sign in as a primary social sign on as a primary for the to mitigate that sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people, when we were looking at our logins, over 50% of people choose email over a social sign-in to log in.
Interesting. Okay.
And, it may be an issue of trust. It may be an issue of something else we don't know. We haven't fully investigated that. But, the vast majority of people choose to enter their email in, which allows them to create their Bonbon account. That being said, we're not against social sign-ins and enabling people to access content more quickly and easily. I do have some philosophical challenges with the way that Apple can act very one-sided, and they don't really treat publishers with the respect that they deserve. They sort of make decisions on their own, and there's no sort of balance on enabling both privacy, but also enabling publishers to have real business models, right? And so we do have Apple logins is not something we support. And then Facebook, their terms of service are a little bit more egregious than most in terms of the claims they make with regard to logins and the data that they collect from people logging in. So we find that publishers are a little bit more allergic to the Facebook login button and the Apple login button than the Google login button. And that's why we're supporting both OpenPass, which we've gotten fully behind in terms of their approach to market, really creating an open standard, and then Google, which seems to be the in a world of lesser evils, it's the least evil.
So do you find that some folks are actually curious enough to select the OpenPass choice, even if they do not have an OpenPass account?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of people click on OpenPass to investigate what that thing is and what it is. And so I think, like any new standard, any new approach, it's going to take a long time to really get significant ubiquitous traction. But, we're sort of here to support um, OpenPass and build them more awareness and help them sort of build up their business.
So, any fun stuff on the product roadmap that you're able to share, or new announcements that are coming out, even if you can't talk too much about them?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I think that, the role that we kind of see ourselves is we create these rewarding moments for consumers that help publishers build more, registration, build first-party data, drive engagement, and then boost their ad rates. So we're really exploring all of those avenues, and sort of trying to build products against all that. At the end of the day, publishers make more money by doing one of two things, ad-based publishers. They either increase inventory or they increase their RPMs, their revenue per thousand pages, right? And so I think we're in a really interesting place in that we can, using rewards, we can help do both of those things. Both increase engagement. We give people rewards for reading more. We have a reading rewards program. So the more they read, the more rewards they earn. And that is generating about 100% lift in content consumption versus other users, but versus non-rewarded users. And so we have some interesting products working around advertising. Can we introduce ads into the ecosystem, and so a publisher can actually make money with regard to our modals? So it becomes not just helping publishers generate increased amount of registered users, but also can we help them increase their ad rates and increase and create new ad units that have never existed before. So.
Right, right. I did notice actually that when I registered via a Bonbon message as a consumer, right, that that the emails that I got were providing an audience development benefit, right? So it
Yeah.
wasn't just purely the first party data that I had then shared with that publisher, but it was really also that, that was an opportunity for, audience development to occur. I in that instance, the audience development deals, are they again siloed within the specific publisher, i.e., if I registered on, I think Women's World might have been one of your publishers.
Yep.
Yeah. So if I register there, do I only get audience development news links that are rewards for there, or do they actually you know, extend outward, across the publisher network?
Yeah, so we are a publisher-first solution. We're publisher-obsessed and customer-obsessed, consumer privacy and publisher-obsessed. That leads us towards building products that help them. The single biggest pain I think right now publishers are in is Google updates and seeing big shifts in SEO traffic. And there's just a lot of audience development pain right now. And the medicine for most publishers right now is expect to have fewer users going forward. I do think that Gen AI and answer engines like OpenAI, ChatGPT are going to diminish the need for traditional search to find information. And so that's going to be just less traffic for publishers. So in this world of diminishing traffic, you need to basically make more money off of fewer users. And the way you do that is you get users to register and you build more engagement, more loyalty, and higher RPMs off of your existing users. So that's the framework, how we think about this. Now, our job is to get people, I think, is to help to serve publishers is to get users to come back to those same publishers' websites.
Right.
So that's sort of like phase one of our business is like, how can we get users to log in? When they create a Bonbon account, we reward them for going back and visiting the publisher they signed up with. We also think that we can play a really interesting role in terms of content discovery on a go-forward basis. So this would be sort of introducing consumers to other content that they may find relevant. And this kind of goes back to your question about data collection and personalization. If we are sort of understanding in a very intimate way what consumers like to read, we should be in a very privileged position to make recommendations that are trusted and incredibly relevant with regard to what they might want to read within the Bonbon network. And that, in a sense, serves our publishers first and also serves consumers through relevance. So long-winded answer to your question around that. But the idea is, yeah, we see our role as audience development, in kind of world of diminishing audiences. We're just here to help our publishers.
Yeah, and I can certainly validate the fear that is going through the entire ecosystem, not just publishers, as it relates to the disappearance of the SERP, the search engine results page, and the replacement of the chatbot single answer, right? Which means except in perplexity, where there's still a SERP-like environment. But the idea that the SERP for certain query types will disappear and there'll be a winner-take-all
Yeah.
answer that is actually built off an entirely different algorithm, right? We get a ton of folks actually asking us, how do I simultaneously do SEO for the status quo, but also future-proof my visibility for LLMs, right? And there are ways to do that. But I would agree with you. There's absolutely a lot of concern about, the erosion of search traffic, either as a result of algorithmic changes, but just consumer behavior as well.
Yeah. And I think Google is the best frog boiler ever to exist. Just a creative, incremental little changes that put more and more EBITDA into their coffers. And they're just driven by the profit motive. They need to continue to show growth. And whatever they're doing now to make everyone feel good is not where things are going to end up, right? If they are providing some reference links out just to calm the seas while people are freaking out, I think we would expect less traffic from the search results page over time. If that's, if the trends continue as they always have, I think they will. So, and we're also seeing that top of mind. And so kind of as I mentioned, the way we're telling publishers is let's capture the users that you have. Let's build a relationship with those. Let's build more engagement with those users, and let's compound your ads business within fewer users. The other thing that we've been working with publishers on is this notion of Facebook and X referrals, right? We saw a dramatic downturn in the referrals Facebook has given publishers over the past 3 years. I think it's like 70% drop. And anything that you post that provides an external link gets less and less in the feed. So what we've been doing is working with our publishers to promote our offers and rewards within their users on Facebook to try and build more first-party data, saying, "Hey, come back to the site, join the program, give us your email, and you'll earn X, Y, Z rewards." And so essentially, you sort of recoup your users off of social networks and take back your audiences. You basically publishers to a large degree helped these social networks build up their businesses, providing free content. And now these social networks are going back to these consumers or to the content creators and these publishers and say, "Hey, create more video, make it funny, make it this, make it that." And it's like they have them on a treadmill and don't provide any external links. And so you have these terrified publishers doing exactly what the social networks want. And at the end of the day, they've been sort of trained into like driving more engagement with the social networks and delivering less value back to their owned and operated platforms. And it's a very, very sad state of affairs. So it's another thing we've been sort of working with publishers to try and address.
Yeah, I'd love to get you had mentioned that your platform tries to serve up the relevant rewards or relevant offers based on context and other information you have about the user. And in prior experiments, when I ran sweeps for a cause under Giving Forward, for example, we did some fun experimentation around elasticity of response for values of sweepstakes, for example. Right? There's sort of these weird, points where you just add an extra zero and you see this many, percentage points lift, and there's this sort of sweet spot happens around 1,000, right? But obviously then you need a pretty big prize. And I'd love to hear, and obviously merchandising a prize in different ways, right? Can sometimes, even if it's the same prize, just merchandised differently can result in very different response rates. So it's almost like an interesting view into the consumer's brain. And I'd love to, if you guys have learned anything fun as a result of that.
Yeah, I think so. First and foremost, I think there's different audiences across publisher sites you need to build different journeys and products for, and not all audiences are the same. But I do think there is a segment of hunters who love to win big. And generally speaking, if you give someone a chance, 100% chance to get a dollar product, or 1 in 100 chance to get $100, you're twice as likely, you're twice as many people will take the 1 in 100 chance to win $100.
Right.
Right. Just it's the same net present value, but consumers, generally speaking, prefer bigger items. And so So from our perspective, we basically are looking and testing which kinds of offers work well within which sites, which pages on sites, or which sections of sites. And so typically we'll run 8 offers at a time. Machine learning will sort of like rotate them through. It'll auto tune to the offers that perform the best, and those tend to be the winning offers for period. But offers all have decay curves, and so then we bring new offers to the table. Right now, we're running almost 200 different offers across our network of publishers, and we can scale that to the nth power. Scale is not a problem in general with what we're trying to do. But we do find that the more relevant the offer is to the site and to the audience, the higher the response rate. So for one of our publishers, we're running a bunch of they're sort of a gaming site, and we ran a bunch of different offers and got pretty good results. And what worked really well was there was a card game that mimics the site, and they just came up with a new release, this brand new sort of card pack, and we put that offer up, and then we got like a 4 or 5x increase in rent rates,
Right.
just because of relevance. And so what we're finding is that as we work across domains like sports, women's themes, gaming, we're starting to build a really institutionalized understanding of what drives consumer behavior change. What are people willing to stop what they're doing and register for? The other thing I would say is that there are other things that we're finding. We're finding pockets of people who like to register just simply to be on the leaderboard. They're competitive. They want to answer questions right. They want to be on the leaderboard, and that's what motivates them. So every single sort of journey is slightly different for the optimization journey is slightly different for each consumers, and that's kind of what we're building is a behavior sort of a system that understands consumer behavior and understands what offer to put in front of what consumer at what time. And so far so good. We've sort of been in the market for a year, and our response rates have been going up every single month over month.
So if there are any publishers, either revenue responsibility or audience development responsibility folks listening, watching today, at what sort of publisher size is it sort of in your sweet spot, and larger? Obviously, larger is better.
Yeah, so we today we signed a publisher that was 50 million monthly page views, which was a huge win for us. And we have publishers who have tens of thousands of page views, and we have a solution for that. So any publisher we have a solution for, we have really low impact setup process and really lightweight pricing for some of the smaller publishers. So we make it really easy for publishers to get up and running on our solution. What's probably one of the kinds of publishers that's probably not ideal is subscription-based publishers.
Right.
Right now. And the reason is because generally subscription-based publishers they make a hard decision that they're going to sacrifice their ad business in exchange for bolstering their SaaS, their recurring revenue business, their subscription business. And what they basically say is, hey, at a certain point, we're going to stop people from reading, aka we're going to kill our ads business so we can push people to buy subscriptions. And I think maybe 1 in 1,000 websites can pull that off.
Right.
New York Times, Wall Street Journal. Generally speaking, you just blow your foot off if you do that. And we've seen a lot of cases where ads-focused publishers will put up a subscription wall, a paywall, and like suddenly their advertising collapses, and they're like, take it down, take it down, take it down. Cry uncle. This definitely did not work. It's only the very, very small minority of publishers who have really unique user base and really unique content that can pull off subscription models. And a lot of those publishers have really good paywall technology partners. What we've found with programmatic publishers is that we can actually use other incentives to get people to register. We can sort of ask, we can give people rewards. And so, the notion that we think is the best one for the publishing community that's programmatic and advertising based is micro rewards. And I think a lot of the subscription publishers are working right now on pushing forward micro payments. So our answer to micro payments is micro rewards, and I think it's best served for those ad-focused publishers.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Great. Well, any other things we didn't cover that you think would be important for the overall ecosystem and sort of privacy safe relevancy improvement?
No, I mean, I think just one other thing is a sort of this notion of what happens when cookies go away. There's tens of billions of dollars being spent on the buy side of advertising, right? Data just sitting there on the DSPs looking for users. And so they need addressability to effectuate those business models. I think that there is a really unique opportunity for us as cookies go away to bring more audiences onto the supply side. And those same budgets will chase the same targeting, but if it can be brought in a privacy-centric way with consumer consent and consumer awareness, with a fair value exchange, I think it represents where the industry needs to go on a go-forward basis. So that's kind of how we think about the role we're playing. And of course, there's just a lot of people who are like behind this trend, around more consumer privacy. But I think we're on the right side of privacy, and I think we're building something that is for the next 10 years of the ad ecosystem.
Great. Well, Elliott, thanks so much for sharing your journey and your wisdom with myself and with the viewers and listeners. Much appreciated.
Appreciate your time. Thanks for your time.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.